So recently I've seen a lot of people struggling with making badge reels. I see questions like, how do I even get started? What supplies do I need? What's absolutely necessary? What don't I need? Because when you see somebody doing it who's been doing it a long time, it's easy for us to sort of overlook the extras that we have that we don't really need, but we like having because we have been doing it and we know it makes our life easier. So today's video is dedicated to those people who are starting from scratch, just want to learn the very basics, want to start their badge making or acrylic blank epoxying journey, that creative journey. So I'm here for you. I'm here for that. I'm Donna. Welcome to the studio, and let's get started. Okay, the first thing you absolutely need, and we're gonna do this, it's very basic. We're gonna go super simple today. It's probably gonna be really short. The first thing you absolutely need is UV resin. When you're first starting and you're just trying it out, you wanna go, you're gonna like gravitate, I think, toward like, you know, something on Amazon that's like really inexpensive. And the problem with that is it can get really frustrating because if you get the wrong UV resin or a UV resin that's really not, it's not gonna cure properly no matter what you do, and then you're gonna feel like you're doing something wrong because, you know, you've never done this before and now you're doing it for the first time and the UV resin isn't adequate. Or it's gonna have a really low viscosity, and so it's going to run over the edges, and that becomes super frustrating when it's just leaking everywhere. You know, if you put too much on, it happens a lot easier with certain UV resins than with other UV resins. So my first suggestion with this first item that you absolutely need to have, UV resin, is I would tell you to start with the Counterculture DIY UV resin and do a small bottle. Like I have this tiny little, this is tiny. This is 4 ounces, okay? But I would start with a high quality UV resin, especially if you're looking to do this long term, or if you're like some of the people that I've seen with these questions. I've seen them in the Zindi group on Facebook. I've seen them on different, you know, places that they're saying, I have all this stuff and I just don't know how to get started. Start with something quality and it'll definitely help you in your journey, okay? And I'm gonna link everything below. All of my suggestions will be linked below, and I'm even gonna make a list, like a PDF that you can download so that you just have like that PDF, or you can save to your computer or whatever you wanna do with it. If you wanna print it, whatever floats your little boat, you could do. I'm just gonna have that resource for you of my absolute, you need this for sure, of my highly recommend or strongly recommend that you have things that you don't absolutely need, but you should have. And then of course, the fun stuff that that make it a lot easier and that I enjoy using. So number 1, UV resin. Number 2, since you're using UV resin, you're gonna need a UV lamp. Okay, so there's a lot of different kinds of lamps out there. Honestly, this is not gonna make or break you. This is not like the resin where it could be completely frustrating and make your job harder. A lower watt lamp is gonna take a lot longer to cure. So just keep that in mind. You're gonna have to hit the button a few more times, you know, to cure that resin, but that's okay. I mean, if you're just learning and just starting out, you're probably not making a bunch of pieces anyway. So just hitting it a couple more times, it's like 30-second increments. It's really not a big deal. So any UV lamp is gonna do. I will put 2 in my description. I'm gonna put like a really basic one that I started with, and then I'll also put like my current one that I have. It's a 248 watt, like it's supercharged. it cures really well and really fast. The third thing you're gonna need, okay, we got UV resin, a UV lamp. The third thing you're gonna need is an acrylic blank of any kind. And again, if you're just starting, I wouldn't go, you know, and spend a bunch of money on all these different acrylic blanks from these acrylic blank manufacturer places, you know, like Zindi or Moxie or Bam Blanks. I wouldn't do that right away because you want to learn how to use them first, right? So I would go again to Amazon or your local craft store or whatever. I don't buy things from craft stores, so I'm not sure if they have them. But you can get like a whole thing of like circle shaped acrylic blanks with no hole for like $6 or something. And it's like 50 pieces. I don't know how many, I don't quote me on these because I have to look it up, but it's super cheap and it's a whole bunch. So you can test and work and play and you know, just get used to using the UV resin, how it runs on the blank and how it works, you know, just so that you're not wasting your money on these high quality blanks that have to have printed pictures or printed, you know, or you have to cut stuff on your silhouette. If you don't have a cutting machine, it could be hard, you know. So I would start with, it doesn't have to be a circle, it could be a square, it could be a heart shape, it could be anything. So just, but Amazon does sell packs of those for really cheap. I would avoid getting one with a hole if you're just starting, just because, you know, you do have to be a little more careful not to have the resin go into the hole. So, I mean, if you're thinking about doing keychains, then start with hole, you know, like a circle with a hole in it, like for the keychain hole, because then you can practice getting, you know, making sure that you're not having the resin fall over into that hole. Okay, so UV resin, a UV lamp, acrylic blank. There's 3. We have 9, so we're a third of the way there. The next thing that you definitely need is 91% alcohol. You're going to use the alcohol to clean off your blank, and it's also really helpful in cleaning any tools that you use. It's also helpful in cleaning up your work area. It's just something you want to have, and you definitely want 91%. You want the high percentage, not just the regular alcohol, which I don't even know what the percentage is on regular alcohol, to be totally honest with you. I just buy the 91%. So number 5, and this sounds kind of silly and kind of like common sense, but it's really not almost common sense, is a level surface. You want to be working on a level surface. So, and you don't need to like bust out a level and like put it on your table and make sure that your surface is level. You're gonna know because when you put that epoxy, when you put that resin on your blank, the resin, if it's not a level surface, is going to spill over in a certain direction, or maybe just kind of roll in a certain direction. And you will have uneven finishes when that happens. So you definitely wanna make sure you're working on a level surface so that your finished product isn't, you know, wonky and cockeyed, okay? Number 6 is a sanding block or nail files or sandpaper. Now I like my little, this one's kind of used and, you know, beat up, but I like my little nail files. I get these in a big pack from Amazon, and these are great because they're small, and usually your blanks are small, you know, you don't need something huge, and they're just easy to work with. And the grit is perfect on these particular ones. It's a really high grit, so it does the job. And I also could use these for cleaning up the edges after if I have to. So these are fantastic. I really like my nail files. But again, if you have sandpaper laying around the house or in your garage or whatever, you can use sandpaper. If you have a sanding block or want to buy sanding blocks, you can do that as well. So any one of those 3 things, a sanding block, a nail file, or sandpaper, but you do need something to sand your acrylic blank before you apply the epoxy. So any one of those items are going to work for you. Number 7 is something to decorate it with. And I didn't put a specific something because you don't really, I mean, if you are super creative with a paint pen, you could hand paint your acrylic blanks and just, you know, put epoxy resin over, or UV resin over top of that. Like, you don't need anything fancy. If you're like, you don't have to have all these other fancy tools. You could just use acrylic paint or paint markers or whatever and paint it. So you could draw something on there, you could paint something on there, you could just do a sticker, as long as it's, you know, like a vinyl sticker. And again, those, you can get some kind of fun little stickers off of Amazon, like if you want to get a bunch of star stickers and just do a color, you know, paint the blank with acrylic paint. I don't know, like maybe for the holiday, you just paint it like half red and half blue, and, you know, for the 4th of July coming up here in a couple months, and then put star stickers on one side and then paint white lines on the red side. You know what I mean? Like, it could be that simple. It does not have to be complicated. And again, if you're just starting, I would try with different kinds of paint and just so I could see what works and what doesn't. I still use paint a lot, even though I also use a lot of vinyl. I spray paint a lot of my blank designs. So I will, like anything that's black, I spray paint the black before I start doing anything else to it. So I take it, I sand it, take it outside, I spray paint it black, and then I put any vinyl or any other stuff on top of that. So spray paint works fabulously. I'm gonna tell you one thing though, don't spray paint white. White will not cure correctly. It's gonna change color on you. I don't know why this happens, but every white spray paint I have used has turned red, like a pink red or a yellow tinge, and it just does not, it's not a cute look, you guys. Don't use white spray paint on your acrylic blanks, but any way you wanna decorate it is totally like, it's the options are really kind of endless. There are fillers that you can buy. You can do dried flowers. There's so many things. And so I was very non-specific when I said some sort of decoration, because you don't want just like an acrylic blank with epoxy over it. There's no point in that, right? It's boring. If you do want to do that just to practice your resin, technique of getting it onto the blank, if it's like, you can do that. But again, at the same time, it's if it comes out nice, you might want to use it for something. You might want to stick a magnet on the back and use it on your fridge if you really like how your testers turned out, or give them as gifts or something. So I wouldn't recommend just kind of sitting there just putting UV resin on top of blanks, and it won't take long. Like, I'm not talking about weeks and weeks of you practicing UV resin. I mean, a day. I think like a day, a couple of hours of just seeing how the resin flows, seeing how it goes onto your blank, and just getting really comfortable with that is probably where you want to start. And so we were on number 7. So we have a UV resin, a UV lamp, an acrylic blank, 91% alcohol, a level surface, super important, some sort of sanding mechanism, sanding device. Like I said, I use my nail files, some sort of decoration. And then number 8, I have a spreading tool. And again, I was super vague here because you can use a popsicle stick. You can use a plastic knife, like if you have picnic, silverware, plastic silverware from a party or something that you have left over. You get one of those plastic knives. Go to the dollar store, get a pack of plastic knives. I mean, if you're going to the dollar store, I would probably get popsicle sticks instead. Those work way better. But you can use a popsicle stick. We use silicone tools. I use a silicone tool. This is my favorite one. Our silicone tools like this, but it's not necessary. This is gonna be on my rate the help, but not necessary. Like, I could make a badge reel without this thing, okay? If I wanted to, really, if I was in a total bind, I could walk into my kitchen and, use a knife out of my drawer that I never get to use for food again. Don't obviously use it for food. Don't wash it or try or think you can wash it and use it for, don't do that. But if you're gonna, make it your resin tool, so some sort of tool, because you're gonna want that to spread the UV resin out. And then number 9, if you're doing this for badge reels, then you need badge reels. So any kind of badge reels work. Alligator clips are usually the most standard that people like and want. So you can get those. And again, all the links will be in the description. If you're doing, instead of badge reels, if you're doing these acrylic blanks to make keychains, then the keychain hardware is a whole other story. And there's there's a little bit more into that. And actually they sell the kits with like all the hardware that you just attach. So it's not that hard if you wanted to make keychains. But that is the absolute necessary 9 things that I would start with if I was really just starting and practicing and trying to get a feel for, even if I wanted to keep doing things with UV resin and acrylic blanks, okay? My not necessary, but strongly Do you hear the word? Strongly recommend. Like it is probably something you definitely, if you're gonna do this more than one day, then you definitely want a mask, okay, to put on when you're breathing. You want gloves on your hands, super important, super helpful. I mean, I should almost have those on the absolute list, but I didn't want to, like, if you're just starting and you want to just get the basic supplies just to see if you even want to do this or like doing this, I didn't want you to invest, because the mask can get very pricey. Gloves, not so much, but the mask can get pretty pricey for the right kind of mask. So I didn't want to say, oh, get a mask, and then you have this mask and nothing to use it for. A cutting machine is my nice to have, or not nice to have, it's not necessarily needed, but strongly recommended. You're gonna have a lot more possibilities with your designs if you have a silhouette or a cameo or some other type of, vinyl cutting machine. They're gonna make your life easier. You can just do basically anything now with your design software and your cutting machine. So, something that is super important. Another thing that probably should be on my absolute, and all of these should probably be on my absolute list, but they're not. But I strongly recommend a torch. You're gonna get bubbles, no matter what kind of epoxy or UV resin, you use, you're gonna see some bubbles. So a torch is important and to have. I have to interrupt myself here. I said that you need or should have a torch and rubbing alcohol. Here's the thing, I've done a couple times. When you are using a torch, if you have a paper towel sitting nearby with rubbing alcohol on it, or rubbing alcohol that's fresh and still droplets of it, you will catch on fire. Like, it will catch on fire. Rubbing alcohol is extremely flammable. So just be cautious. Make sure you don't have any napkins that are, soaked in rubbing alcohol, or anything on your surface that has a bunch of rubbing alcohol, like if you spill it or something, because if you're using your torch to pop those bubbles and that rubbing alcohol is nearby, or there's some on the, on your surface, it will go up in flames. So just from experience, I know, and I haven't done it in a really long time, because once I figured it out and saw what happened, I was like, oh, gotta be careful. So just be mindful of that you move any kind of alcohol away from your blank when you're torching it or using any kind of fire or flame around your rubbing alcohol. Just make sure that you totally separate them and use caution. Always be safe, always be careful. That's all I've got. I just had to interrupt myself to tell you that. Thanks. You can get a little spray bottle and spray just a little spray of 91% alcohol to pop those bubbles. But sometimes those are some big bubbles in there underneath, and so the torch, just one quick little hit with the torch and it's totally good. Where with the spray, it doesn't always get all of them, and you kind of have to watch and make sure. So I prefer the torch, but you can use the alcohol in a tiny little bottle, like a spray bottle, like a misting kind of spray bottle. Not like a, you don't want to drown it, because it will mess up your resin if you have too much alcohol on there. But just a little spritz will pop the bubbles. And weeding tools. If you're getting a silhouette machine or a cameo machine, or if you already have a silhouette or a cameo machine and you're cutting vinyl, you're gonna need to weed that vinyl. So having weeding tools is really important. And you can get those also on Amazon. Most machines will come with like a starter kit where they have a few tools already in there for you. So if you have the machine, you probably already have some weeding tools in your little, reserve there. So there are so many great extras. My last piece here is this great extras, things that I just love having and love using, and that make my life super easy. A silicone mat is always great. It helps with cleanup, because even though you're under your absolute list, you're still gonna wanna put something down on your work surface just in case you spill over. Like, you don't wanna get it on your, and you can use, if you're, you know, in a bind, really, you can use a piece of tinfoil, you know, like break off a piece of tinfoil wrap and just lay it flat on your surface. You can use some parchment paper and just lay that down. I would tape parchment paper down. If I were you, I would tape it because it just kind of moves around a lot. It's slippery. I mean, you could use a napkin. The problem with napkins is there's fibers in them, and sometimes those fibers will get into your resin, and then you see those, and it's not fun. So a silicone mat or a honeycomb mat, which they actually sell these also as like, what's it called? When you put hot stuff, like a hot plate type thing. But this is one of mine. Look at it, it's dirty because I use it all the time. But this is one of my silicone honeycomb mats. So it is silicone, but it's also a honeycomb mat. And those are fantastic. My bling block, they don't sell bling blocks. I think I need to start selling some bling blocks because I just love my bling block. Like, it is just a block, literally. It's just a wooden block that I use. I put a piece of vinyl over top of it so that anything that gets on it I can easily pull off, and then I can put my acrylic blank as I'm working with it right on top, and then I can look at it from all the angles, and I don't have to touch it with my hands and get resin on my hands or worry about messing up the acrylic, or the UV resin as I'm working with it. So my bling blocks, I love them, and I need to start selling some of this stuff. What else is on my a variety of spray paint colors. So lots of different colors so that you can do different designs, or paint colors. So spray paint was on my list. A variety of badge reels. So if you're doing these as badge reels and you are going to sell them, I would have a variety in my shop. Like, so I would do the MRI safe badge reel. I would do an alligator clip. I would do the belt clip. I would do the lanyard, and I have another video on how to make those somewhere. I'll list it somewhere in the description below. Printables vinyl sticker paper, so helpful, especially if you don't want to buy the sized acrylic blanks from like one of the big sellers. You can get printable vinyl sticker paper. Use your Creative Fabrica subscription. If you don't have a Creative Fabrica subscription, you can check out my link and check out Creative Fabrica and see what they offer. But you can get so many super cute designs. If I were doing something really basic, I would Google keychain designs, not Google, but in the search bar of Creative Fabrica, I would do keychain, the word keychain, and then it'll give you already round, circle pictures that are already sized, not sized really, but because I don't know what size circle you're gonna buy from Amazon, but they'll be already in a circle shape, so they already fit onto a circle or a square or whatever. Just so Creative Fabrica, and then printable vinyl paper. And I honestly have not found a vinyl sticker paper that I love for under UV resin. So what I also do with my sticker paper is I add a sheet of laminate over top of it, and I'm going to do a video about that too, how I make my stickers to go under my badge reels, because there's a lot of them, they give you bubbles, it makes it really hard. But when you have a surface over top of it really sealing that in, then you don't get those bubbles. So a clear spray paint is also super helpful for things like that. You can use water slide. Water slide would be on my great extras that help list. You can print images on water slide, and then put those over a light glittered like a white glitter or like a light pink glitter or something, because water slide, a lot of the time, if the back isn't white or then you're not gonna be able to see it, or if it's not really a clear light color, then you're not gonna be able to see it. It doesn't do well on like a black surface, it just blends in because it's see-through. But water slide. So there's a ton of extra things that I can't even tell you. Tape. This should also be on my necessary, but highly recommended. I use this for so many different things. Like I tape down my badge reels when I glitter them. I put tape on the back of my blanks so that if I do mess up and I do spill over, it doesn't get on the back and mess up the back of my blank. So that's something super helpful. Toothpicks are super helpful. I always have those around. I'll use them to maybe pop a bubble or help move my resin. If I just have a little tiny bit, or I'm trying to get the edge, then I'll pull out a little toothpick because it's small enough that I'm not gonna over pour, you know, push it too far or whatever. So sometimes all you need is a little toothpick to fix it. Yeah, so I mean, we went through the absolutes. We went through my highly recommends or strongly recommends. If I went through all of my great extras that help, that I love, 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 I would be here all day because there are so many things. There are so many things that I like have found that just do great, like the different types of vinyl. Like there's so many different types of vinyl, and oh my goodness, if I do anything with a holographic vinyl, people love it. It doesn't matter what it is. You add a holographic vinyl to a badge reel and people just love it. It just adds so much dimension and brilliance to the finished product. You know, holographic glitter also, or color changing glitter, is also a really good thing to have. I would start also, if I were you, again, with glitters. I wouldn't make a badge reel without glitter. I mean, for the most part, people want to see the glitter. There are some, I guess, some designs I have that don't require glitter or use glitter, but for the most part, I don't sell a lot of non-glittered badge reels in my shop. So I wouldn't recommend doing too many not glitter, unless that's like your brand or whatever, but I would definitely do the glitter. And when you're doing glitter with UV resin, a fine glitter is your best friend, okay? You don't wanna do a chunky a glitter. It's gonna look weird. There's gonna be opens, it's gonna like float. You're not gonna see. If you want to do some chunky, mix it with a fine, you know, or do a fine chunky mix. But the fine glitter blends really well into your resin when you have a good mixture, and then it just is all glitter and you don't have those clear spots. Like it doesn't have that sort of transparency. You really don't want it to be transparent. And so when you're not using a fine glitter, it tends to be kind of transparent because the glitter doesn't get to really saturate that UV resin or mix well enough. But anyway, okay, so I said this was gonna be short. We're gonna wrap it up. I know I didn't make anything. I didn't want to overwhelm with like what I was doing, and I didn't trust myself to not talk too much while I was making, to distract from the tools that you need, from telling you the tools that you need. What I'm gonna do is I will do a new video showing how each tool is used, and when I'm doing it, I will kind of refer to each of them, and maybe I will do like, here's an absolute list and here's what I'm doing to make it, although that's going to be tough for me because I'm kind of spoiled because I do use all the extra stuff. So but maybe I will do a video of just the absolute stuff with just a circle blank and just show you how I make one, that way you could see. But if you have any questions, please post them in the comments below. I'm happy to help. I'm here for you. Like I said, I'm gonna have that PDF down below also, so you can print out a list of these items so that you have it. And then all the links are gonna be listed below, and I will even categorize them by, you know, from absolute, and then the links, and then not absolute but highly recommended, and then the links, and then great extras that help. I do wanna say one last thing. If you're thinking about getting a cutting machine, the two different big brands are the Silhouette and the Cricut, right? If you're getting a Cricut, it is more user-friendly, so there's less of a learning curve with the Cricut, from what I understand. I don't have a Cricut, never used a Cricut. People love Cricut. I don't know why, they do. I can't tell you why because I'm not a Cricut user. I'm a Silhouette user. Silhouette is a little bit harder from what I understand, but again, with Silhouette, I guess not again because I haven't sent this before, but with Silhouette, I have Silhouette Studio where I can edit and change and do so much more to my images right there in the program. And that's why I love my Silhouette. And you may not be there yet, You may not. You're just starting out. You may not be like, listen, I can't do all that extra stuff yet with the images. So it's okay if you can't do that yet. But if you're considering machines, you may want to use that as sort of an option, like when you're went, because even you'll see people who have Cricuts who are like, well, I bought the Silhouette Studio just so that I could, like, not the machine, but just the membership to the studio, because you can do that, where you just have the studio where you can edit your images and stuff, and then download them and then upload them into Cricut and cut it. And to me, that just feels like an extra step. If you don't already have a machine, I recommend the Silhouette. That's just my own. I don't work with Silhouette. Nobody sponsors me, and nobody knows me well enough to like say, hey, here, talk about me. Silhouette definitely doesn't do that. I just have been a Silhouette user for over 10 years, and I'm comfortable with the machine. I have the Pro now, but I've had the Cameo, I've had the Curio, so I've been using the machine, and there are different types of machines for a while. And that's all. That was my 2 cents on Silhouette versus Cameo. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate you. Leave me comments below, and take care.